Hello, everybody. We're live. It was like circling. Welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. My name is Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And that's Dan. And this week in real estate has been pretty crazy. I felt like, so this weekend, I don't know if you follow me on the social media, you saw that I had to bake a cake. My mom taught me to bake cakes. So I baked a cake for one of my kids and I put it on Instagram and, kind of show people like, hey, here's how to bake this if you ever wanted to try it. And to do that, I had to take a little bit of time off from the real estate world. And I thought, oh, no problem. I'll be able to catch up like Sunday evening, Monday morning, no sweat. So I started Monday morning with vigor to finish the day. And I just went from back to back to back to back to back to back to back at the end of the day, like at 9 p.m. Oh, there's the cake right there. Yeah. You could see it on I have the whole process. Thank you. Producer Matt is putting up the cake there. So there it is. He's literally putting up you got to make them like wonder, right? But anyway.
No, you're giving him too much, buddy.
You're giving him too much. But for the Clubhouse people, Matt, if you'll take one of those photos and change your picture in Clubhouse just so they can see what it looks like, because it's audio only in the Clubhouse group. And if you're wondering about this Clubhouse, you can go to Clubhouse and find us in the Real Estate Networking Club. If you're already on Clubhouse, it's a little green button at the top. You can also hit the notification at the bottom of your screen if you're running the new app that says, enjoying the conversation, join Real Estate Networking, and you can join the club there. Everyone becomes a club member instantly, so we have like 10,000 people in that and we don't have to move them over anymore. Anyway, long story short,
26,000.
Is there 26,000 now?
Real estate networking is 26.1.
Wow. There you go. 26 point. It's the largest real estate group on Clubhouse. So
in the world,
in the world on Clubhouse. That is
on
true.
Clubhouse in the world.
Yeah. So anyway, I made this cake. I started the day. It was just back to back to back. At the end of Monday, I was like, wow, did not catch up. Here comes Tuesday. I'll be able to catch up on Tuesday for sure. Nope. So again, attack the day strong. I have great time blocking set and all of the time blocks were completely full. I didn't catch up this morning. And I was out normally, like I have an easy Wednesday morning because I like to read through more of the news stories, make sure I am fully prepared for the show. But instead I was out like showing houses that just came on the market 2 seconds ago, because that's what we have to do for our clients now, and some properties that weren't even on the market yet. So it's been nuts. And I was talking to a photographer of ours, Arshia. I was like, she said, I don't know what's happened. What is that? He's
refresh Clubhouse, everyone, and check out.
Everybody pull down to refresh, and you can see. You can
check out Clanton's profile pic. There you go.
So anyway, my photographer was saying the same thing, that everyone's been like running around crazy. So what's it been like in California? Are y'all still running around crazy, or has it kind of died down? What's
no? Everyone left. It's just me and like 7 other people here in California. So it's awesome. I don't have much business at the moment, but there's only like 7 people here. So traffic is great.
Inventory is like through the roof.
It's an extreme buyer's market at this moment.
It's such a good buyer's market that Google is developing land.
Right. Yes. Yeah. The little teaser for later. No, it's same. I thought the exact same thing. So as we were doing, if you're not on Clubhouse, you need to follow us, because we do what do we call it? Pre-show show?
Oh, it's the show prep show.
Yeah. Show prep show. We do that. It's a Clubhouse exclusive. And we do that. We kind of run through articles, it's a little peek behind the curtain of how we set up for the show, but we like to do it live. So we get some feedback, and we get different articles from other realtors around the country. And then, but it's the same thing. So as we're going through it, Ray's like, dude, I haven't been able to catch up. And I was like, same. Like literally I try to block for the show prep show, and I was working into the show, and then, it was just the same. And then I'm kind of good now. This morning was literally back to back appointments. So it's the same thing. And I don't know. I'm still waiting for this mass exodus to happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
The California mass exodus that everyone's writing about, Dan has yet to find.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. In fact, Google. Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
And
so let me give you a rundown. Yeah, if you hate the banter, you can always and you're watching the replay. If you're watching it live, you just gotta deal with the banter. So
Yeah, sorry,
do
guys.
something else for a sec. But if you're watching it live and you hate this part of the show, go down to the description and you'll find every one of the articles that we cover with a convenient timestamp. All you have to do is click on that timestamp. It'll zoom you to the part of the show in which we covered that. You can also subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and we produce chops, which are just small sections named after the facial hair. Get it? Chops, Bearded Men of Real Estate. Anyway, they're just small clips of the show that deal with kind of like the greatest hits of those articles and topics. So you can always just catch us on the replay if you have to. You can watch us live on Facebook. We also put the chops there. Clubhouse is like a one and done. There's no like recording of a Clubhouse, but luckily
you got to be here.
Luckily, there is a podcast. So I appreciate all the reviews that we've been getting lately on the podcast. That's been helping a lot. That's really cool to see too. We're glad that this show does mean a lot to you guys because it means a lot to us. But the podcast is the Bearded Men of Real Estate. Find us there while we still have that name. Hint, hint. And then
we're dropping bigger and bigger hints, guys. We actually, if you're on Clubhouse,
Clubhouse exclusive. There was a Clubhouse exclusive earlier. Producer Matt says Dan owns 5 houses in the valley now.
Yep. Uh-oh. Ray. So wait, is it just me or is Ray frozen for everyone? Because you just watched me. Oh wow, there you go. Technical difficulties, but that's okay. I can vamp pretty well. Yeah, it's cooled off so much in Arkansas that Ray is frozen. LOL. I can't show any comments, by the way. Yeah, Ray's just frozen in the middle of. By the way, I am fine. Dan is very fine. Yeah, it's still going. This isn't. It's a Dan show. I'm gonna change this into just the type of show that I want to do. Ray's all demanding and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. So I think where Ray was going, when he froze, what was he talking about? We have to screenshot that. Yeah. But we've been hinting on Clubhouse that we are gonna make some changes coming up. But we got to wait for Ray to come back. And I don't know. Does that mean we lost Clubhouse as well? No, it's still going. Clubhouse is still going. We got 34 people in there, 35 people. That is interesting. It's just a bearded man of real estate now. This has been my plan the entire time. There you go. See, okay, so Matt's still here.
There I am. Yay.
That was so odd.
So was Matt still there?
Yeah, Matt was still here. I was
Paul Lynn, and you renamed the show. I saw that. Bearded Man of Real Estate.
Bearded Man of Real Estate.
That is not what we're doing there. The Dan show. I saw that Dan totally took over. Okay. Well, Clubhouse got an exclusive of me being really confused. So
yeah. So did we didn't lose Clubhouse. We're still there on Clubhouse.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, because usually if you freeze, it's something on my end. So I go. So I was just like confused. Tapping buttons and stuff, and then you were still frozen. I'm like, and then all this stuff came to
I know. I was asking people if I was froze or if you were froze. Ryan.
Yeah, Ray, there you go. You got out of the matrix finally.
You know what? It's really funny because it takes. Andy Rose says he screenshot that. Good, Andy, send it to me. It's really funny because normally, like the Clubhouse stream and the stream that we are doing for the show is on the same Wi-Fi. So,
right, that's why I thought they ought all crash.
Yeah, so my stream went down, but the Wi-Fi, I think one of the Wi-Fi's was down, but it didn't affect Clubhouse. Maybe because Clubhouse automatically switched to cellular or something. I don't know.
That was crazy. All right, good.
Anyway, I forgot what we were talking about now. I think.
Well, so do I. But I just imagine, like, the banter haters. I imagine they're just watching this, going, "God!" And now he froze. They're just gonna talk forever.
I know. We're
just
gonna get
a
lot of hate comments there. Speaking of the news, Dan, I'm glad you brought it up. Sellers are going to be rethinking their ask. So we're talking about that today. Do you have any sellers that are lingering on the market? Because we're going to dive deep into that one. There are more small houses that are starting to hit the market. This is an echo story of one that we kind of heard a couple of weeks ago. Home builder sentiment is falling. Lumber executive says price drops has ignited
Plummeting.
demand for building projects. So, what really makes up the home builder sentiment? If materials prices are dropping, then what are they waiting on? What's going on?
It's interesting.
We'll take a deep dive into that number itself. FEMA is overhauling the National Flood Insurance Program to include climate change.
And that one specifically. So I know it doesn't sound super interesting, but we want, because it's a climate change thing, but what they're changing, I found it very interesting. So we definitely want your feedback on that one from around the country.
Yeah, and then there's a whole bunch of eviction news. So landlords are waiting to see if they can evict people. Tenants are waiting for relief. Everybody's waiting. Lawmakers are urging an investigation into Zillow and the acquisition of Showing Time. So they may be waiting to acquire that one.
And NAR, Rex is rejoicing.
Yeah, the NAR to the federal court in REX case, ignore the DOJ. So that's what NAR is basically going to try to do. We'll see how that works for them. And then we have the Google story, and then the 10 most expensive small towns in America, if we can get to it. If our internet stays strong. At the end of the show, and depending how long we run or short we go, the Fed minutes will be released right at the end of our show. And we should know from that if rates are deemed to go up or down. What do you think, Dan? You want to make a quick lightning prediction? Are they going up or down?
They're going back down.
I think rates are going to tick up just a quarter point.
A quarter point? That's a big jump.
No, not over like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I think that's where they're headed, though. All right. I'm not going to say that. No. They're doing Siri commands and trying to get me to read the comment, because I always read the comments on the show.
He will read whatever you type.
I almost did it. I'm not. And then producer Matt puts it up there, and it's basically saying, "Hey Shlomo, play Waiting on the World to Change by John Mayer." Yeah. Oh my goodness! That. Hey Siri, stop.
She's like, Shlomo's close enough.
Shlomo. Somebody, how did that activate? That's incredible. Anyway, I've got so many of those little mini home things that they're talking all around me right now.
They're gonna talk to me.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Everyone on Clubhouse can hear it too.
Ray's struggling today. Weird. This is amazing. This is the show. This is it.
Tech support. Let me get on the phone. All right. Dan, before we get into the show, will you real quickly tell people what this is actually all about? It's not quite tech support.
Matt, you got to go back. It was about 40 seconds ago. Ray's face when all of his speakers are gone. You need to grab that. That's your new Clubhouse pick. That was amazing.
Man.
All right. Yeah, you know what, Ray, I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met before smart speakers were a thing forever ago,
yeah.
I had an idea for a show. Back at the time, you know, we wanted to call it Bearded Men of Real Estate, but you know, maybe things changed anyway. But when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
What's that, Daniel?
And I'm challenging you on this one. He was so diligent about his braces that he got them off in 6 months when it was supposed to take 2.5 years. Go ahead. Come up with a story for that. Ray.
There was a time in my life where I could have had braces, and my dad literally said, he said, if you were a girl, we'd get you braces, but you're a boy. I don't think you need it. The same thing happened. Like I was fixing a deer stand and cinching this thing to this chain to a tree, and the cincher came back and hit right above my eye and like split that open. It was like bleeding everywhere. My dad was like, well, if you're a girl, we'd take you for stitches, but I think you'll be all right. So
I'm sensing a theme here.
I'll have a scar and a gap in my teeth. And
we all love the gap, by the way.
No, I've actually thought of the adult pieces, but everyone I tell that I have a gap in the teeth, they're like, well, I don't notice the gap, but every one of you out there with a gap in your teeth, I notice, and I know you notice on me too. But it's kind of a funny thing. Like there was a time in my life where I was almost going to get them, but then we're like, nah, we'll see if it closes up by itself. Supposedly the wisdom teeth were supposed to come in and push all your teeth together. That didn't happen. I still have all my wisdom teeth, by the way. I'm almost 40, and I've avoided that. So anyway, that's my braces story. There you go, Daniel.
Okay, so I honestly didn't think you'd have one there. I honestly didn't. But anyway, I noticed that, you know, obviously he's a beautifully bearded man, but he also loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but to humans in general. So the show's about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
And one of the things we think means being more is being able to guide your clients through the trying times that we're experiencing now, in which it feels like the world's waiting on something.
Yeah.
And the only way we think we could do that as professionals is to know what in the world is going on in the world. So with that, Dan, are you ready to get in the headlines?
Yes. Hopefully your internet's holding on for dear life, but hopefully we're going to do this.
All right, guys, share the show. Here we go.
I'm in a laughy mood now, man. Your face still gets me. What's happening?
When it was Attack of the Siri,
They were literally just coming at you like, what's happening?
it was everywhere. I forgot, like, it was stereo Siri.
We're a little off topic here, but that's
All
okay.
All right. Well, let's rethink that. Speaking of rethinking, sellers are rethinking their asks as listings begin to linger. This news story comes to us from Realtor Magazine. Even in this ultra hot competitive market, there's a limit on what home buyers are willing to pay. Some home sellers are starting to see their listings linger on the market, and those sellers may face the prospect of a price cut. Realtor.com's July housing data showed that about 45 cities of the country's 300 largest had an increasing number of homes with price cuts. Our 7-day moving average locally also saw an increase in the number of price reductions. Quote, for buyers, these trends hold the promise of less frenzied market with more choices and better prices, says George Ratiu, Realtor.com's senior economist. Not quite. Here's another quote from Danielle Hale, Realtor.com's chief economist. Price cuts could signal a turning point in the market, but they could also just be a sign of sellers getting ahead of buyers in pricing. There seems to be some markets where the local custom is to price real estate that way. Isn't like, what does that mean? There seems to be some markets where it's a local custom to price real estate that way, where you're pricing ahead of the buyer's pricing. Is that a customary thing?
Not that, I mean, we do a worldwide famous show and we've never heard of that.
I've never heard that as a customary thing. I've heard bad real estate agents buying the listings by just taking overpriced listings. But I've not ever heard
is that what they mean?
Of the country just normally price high. I don't think that's a thing. Not that I've never heard that as a thing.
Like what realtor, good realtor did? No.
Yeah. What area, what community of realtors is like, all right, guys, we're going to price them a little higher.
Yeah. Like what, like everything. And do they have meetings like monthly? Go 30 grand over every time this month.
I just don't know. I've never heard that as like a stat that's tracked. So I'm not sure what she means by some areas in the country.
Well, the customary part,
it seems that she thinks a customary, like a localized trend. I've never heard that. So we've talked a lot about pricing strategies, and I've got a couple of thoughts on this, Dan, that I'll share, and then we could get to kind of your comments and thoughts.
Absolutely.
What I'm seeing is that if the average agent is using comparative market analyses over the last 6 to 8 months, then they've seen these crazy price hikes, right? They've seen listing to sell price ratios that have been increasing, right? Where you're seeing a huge gap between the sell price and the list price, positive side for the sellers. So if real estate agents are looking at that information to price homes now, and if the housing market is has just a little bit of an increase in inventory, then the whole market is going to feel that, because gradually over the last 6 to 8 months, realtors have been inching up the prices by using the past sales. So I'm wondering if what we kind of talked about, where we see the home price gain slow, which we talked about that article last week, and that's kind of been our prediction for the year, because it seems it has to eventually start to level off. I'm wondering if that's what we're seeing here, is just a leveling off of the home price gains. They're still going up, but now realtors who have finally gotten ahead of the curve now need to start to adjust and become more realistic with their predictions when they're talking to sellers. What do you think, Dan?
So I've said it a bunch in the last, I don't know, more than a month and a half, but like 2 months, that it's not as easy to price a home now. And we're going to start seeing more, agents that just kind of go, oh yeah, they, I don't know where they get their info from. I mean, I had an agent the other day call me on one of my listings and say, hey, My buyers looked through comps and said that we should offer this. My buyers looked through comps.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, not I looked through comps and had a conversation with my buyers. My buyers, and I said, well, have you looked through comparables yet? And he said, no, not yet. I haven't had a chance. So then why are you calling me with what, if your buyers want to offer that, sure, but you don't need to call me and tell me my price is off. And by the way, he wanted to come in 50 grand low or something. So don't call me and tell me my price is off. And then, your basis for that is that your clients said. If you want to offer that, that's fine, but write an offer, because maybe that's where the market dictates. Maybe I'm off by 50 grand, but I've been saying it for a long time that you have to be very diligent. And Ray's gone through this on the show before, but very diligent in how you price your home. And it's not really the time anymore to kind of just, the joke was, all right, your house is worth 400. You want 500. Sure. Let's list it. Let's go see what happens. And then it's possible that you get 500 or you get 480 and you're like, okay, cool. It's 80 grand above where we thought. Or you bid it a little more strategically right, and you get 45 grand, 50 grand over asking. So we just need to be very careful about that. Actually, Ray and I don't. A lot of the good agents watching the show don't, but there's agents out there. You got to be careful about how you price a home now. So that's kind of where I'm at it. But I did run my numbers for Rancho Cucamonga here. So I did January 1st of this year all the way through June 30th. We had 725 closed, average days on market 19, which is pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where it gets nutty. So July 1st to current, 209 closed, average days on market 9. Went down by 10 days in the last month and a half.
Huh.
So we're opposite this trend.
That is interesting. I thought everyone was fleeing.
Right.
Melissa Mara said,
right.
I've seen homes I've seen homes sitting a little longer, homes with less offers and more price reductions. David Fresquez says it's all in the awesome listing agents with their great strategies to do the highest and best. Antonio Stella. Antonio, are you in the Clubhouse room too? Antonio usually joins us on Clubhouse. He says, I take that sellers are getting greedy. Agents are pricing higher than they should to get more dollars. Mike Elizabeth Rodell, anecdotal story, says, after my second offer terminated, we raised it. We're on offer number 4, but we're getting what we asked for 82 days on the market. I blame Rona. Yeah, she goes on to say other listing meetings with clients are letting them know that they have to respond to what the market is telling us. Also letting them know that concessions are being negotiated for, including contingencies. Yeah, I am seeing a couple more contingent offers than I previously was. What's going on in Clubhouse? Y'all flash your mics if you want to kind of give us a little market update for your area. Are you seeing homes sit on the market a little long? Are you seeing them still fly off the market with multiple offers? What's going on? I got no one flashing their mic. Oh, okay. Andy's flashing his mic. I'm coming to you, Andy. What's going on, man? Oh, I accidentally put up producer Matt. Hang on.
Hi, Matt.
Where'd it go? Where'd my... Oh, you know what? The whole thing, the whole Clubhouse stream also went down on the live. So I have to reload that too. Hang on just a second, Andy. I'm coming to you.
All right, good times. But yeah, I do think
I use two computers. I use 2 computers to produce the show. Then yes, that is my background. I use 2 computers to produce the show, and I didn't think to reset this computer as well whenever the internet went down.
So people on Clubhouse are like, dude, I've been flashing my mic.
Dude, his thumb's gonna be sore from all the mic flashing, and I can't even get to him. All right,
so
hang on.
Just FYI, in case you guys don't have a live show that goes live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on the Cheese Toast, this is stuff that happens.
This is ridiculous. I mean, I pay for really good internet, and it's annoying. To tell you the truth, it's totally annoying. Okay.
Yeah. I think this is still fallout from Ray not being caught up from the weekend still. All because you wanted to make a cake.
Really, like I got here in plenty of time today, and I started doing it all. I was even in Candace's room with the social agent, which is an awesome room as well, and I had plenty of time to sit and hang out in there while I was getting the final things ready. It was all good, and then we went live, and everything dies. So, all right, Andy, I'm back live now. I can hear you. What's up, man?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Hey.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, you can't bake your cake and eat it too, man. Come on now. So I am seeing stuff stay on the market a little bit longer. I've got one listing myself. It's in a not great location, but it's just sitting there, and we've dropped the price a few times, and it still won't go. But I think overall, at least in what I've seen in Atlanta, yes, things are sitting on the market. Maybe a few extra days, maybe a week, but there's still plenty of houses that are just flying. So it's edging up a little bit, but that's about it. Nothing major that I've seen.
Do y'all think this is maybe more of a market in which it's more dependent upon the individual situation? Like it's more dependent upon that seller and what they need, more dependent upon that buyer, what they have the finances and what they're willing to put forth, more dependent, because that is the sign of a market that's starting to shift to be more normal. I think we're still definitely leaning towards the seller's market, but it seems like it's becoming more normal in that some of it is dependent on what both the seller's willing to take and what the buyer's willing to put up, which I would say 2 months ago, it was like, just put whatever, like put in your highest offer. Let's just go.
Right.
And sellers were like, oh, I'll just price it at whatever. Is that kind of what you think too, Andy?
Yeah, there's some agents that I've talked to out there that will push the limit on the prices because they think they can right now. But I'm not in that boat. I'm the one that says, hey, we're going to price it correctly to where the market is, the comps are showing us, and allow the market to drive up the price if it wants to.
Right. And if you have that conversation with your seller, it's a realistic conversation, and you're managing their expectations. We're going to price it how we think the market should react, and then we wait for them to react.
Ryan Bokros joins us on YouTube. He says the days on market tick up here, less multiple offers, but we aren't seeing prices necessarily drop at a significant level in Houston. Antonio says the machines are taking over my home. Yes, I know. Lisa Perk,
Literally.
she's in Arkansas. She says those ugly babies missed their moment.
That's a great comment.
Yeah, so there was a moment where, hey man, if you have a house problem, now's the time to sell. And we had several clients that actually sold with little things that maybe in a more competitive market would have hung them up from selling. Julie Moon, are you there? No, she's not there. Yesterday she joined the show prep show. I was trying to get her to talk while she was eating. All right, anyone else want to share kind of what's going on in your market? Are you seeing a slowdown? What's happening? All right, we can move on to the next topic then. Okay. More small houses are starting to hit the market. This is another sign that the bonkers housing market might be coming to an end, might be getting a little bit better. Why turn off your ad blocker? Oh my goodness. This is like
good.
Wow.
Today is amazing.
I mean, I even visited this website earlier. So they have one of those things that's like not always, it doesn't always catch. It just, after you've seen it once or twice, then they'll pop that up. Appreciate that, insider. All right, house hunters rejoice. The wild real estate market might finally be getting better, particularly for first-time home buyers or anyone looking for a small house. Inventory is low nationwide, down 33.5% in July compared to the year prior. And remember, the year prior, that July number was right as a whole bunch of pent-up inventory was coming back on the market, but it was still low inventory even compared to the previous year. But the decline is less than the drop in June, which is 43.1%. New listings have risen 6.5% nationwide compared to the same period last year. And that inventory coming on the market could spell some good news for buyers looking for affordable homes. Smaller homes are slowly gaining a larger share of the inventory, according to the data. Now, we talked last week, as this was happening, as the smaller homes were taking a larger share of inventory, we saw a decrease in median home price overall and the average home price. And that is because just this, as more homes sell in the bottom 1/3 of the market, naturally the average price is coming back down. So it looks like a price decrease, but that's not actually what's happening. Let's see. There's Sabrina Spianu, a senior economic research analyst at Realtor.com. She said, for home buyers, this means that there may be more affordable inventory available depending on their metro area. For home sellers, this means that while their home values are still growing, they may need to consider pricing more competitively than they have in the past. The article goes on Insider to kind of talk about some of the details in that strategy and what it looks like for both buyers and sellers. But that's the general gist, just beyond the headlines. Dan, you got anything to add?
Not really. Just our market we're actually at almost a full month of inventory, which hasn't happened in a long time. So we have 10 coming soon, and then 110 actual active listings. And the by the way, it's really interesting. When we do kind of our stats, it now adds a median. It's got average and it's got median price as well. So there's a median stat now, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, we've started looking more at the actives instead of the solds to get a barometer of what's happening right now in the market versus what happened 30 days ago in the market, because the market's moving so fast. Our median list price is slightly down. So it went up, and then the 7-day average is back down. So it's 200 or 279,900 is what it is currently.
Yeah, and I've been putting a little more weight on the pendings, and the in escrows, because when those close, those are going to be what the prices are, so
that's still about $50,000 higher for us than it was 2 years ago, and let's see, $40,000 higher than it was a year ago. So if it gained only $10,000 from 18 to 19, then from 19, I guess it's 3 years ago, from 18 to 19, it only gained $10,000. Then from 19 to, let's go with 20. Yeah, that was a big jump.
But you're saying essentially 90 grand in the last 3 years?
No, 50 grand in the last.
Oh, I see. Okay, years. 50.
Yeah.
But still, that's 20%.
Oddly, it took a significant dive. Now, again, it's median, so it may mean that more new homes that were smaller came on. It took a significant dive down to 247.5 in June. Whoa. So it's already all the way back up to 279 again now. So I know it ebbs and flows, but it's just interesting to kind of keep an eye out.
That's a big ebb, by the way.
That is a big ebb.
That's a big ebb.
Let's see. Dusty Martin says, dang, only 50K higher. Yeah.
Well, he's in Little Rock. It's a little different, but yeah, I mean, that's a big jump. That's 20%. Because I think your median's always been around 220.
220. It was my personal one has been around 270, 250 to 270.
Okay, there you go. So yeah,
the market itself was always around 200 to 220, but that's a big difference. All right. So speaking of sticker shock, home builders, we talked about them last week in the weird headline that said home builders are not building homes and the prices are running up, and it made them sound like that the home builders were causing the prices to run up, but that's not what was happening.
Right. Like they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah, home builder sentiment falls to the lowest level in over a year as buyers face sticker shock. So the price of lumber has fallen sharply in the past 4 months, but apparently it's not been enough to take the pressure off of home builders. Sentiment among single-family home builders dropped 5 points all the way down to 75 in August, according to the National Association of Home Builders. Anything above 50 is considered positive, but that is the lowest reading since July 2020. The index stood at 78 last August. All right, so Dan, this sounds like builders, if the builder sentiment is down, then are they down in the dumps not building? What's going on? What makes up this number?
Well, so there's 3 things, and I always find it interesting to scroll down to this part and see. So it's of the index's 3 components, current sales conditions fell 5 points to 81. So they were at 86. So that's still up there. And sales expectations in the next 6 months were unchanged at 81. So those are both good things. But the biggest one, the third one, is traffic of prospective buyers also fell 5 points to 60. Remember, that had fallen quite significantly, and now it fell again to 60. So if we're talking about that, anything above 5 or 50 being positive, I mean, the buyer traffic is slowing down. Because we have another article, the next one, it's lumber executive says drop in prices has reignited demand for building projects. So I think the actual builder sentiment, their actual feelings about building new projects is going to stay up, but is that traffic going to come back with prices where they are? Because regionally, based on 3-month moving averages for regional HMI scores, that's the builder index, sentiment in the Northeast fell 1 point to 74. Midwest dropped 2 points to 68, which is pretty low. In the South, builder sentiment declined 3 points to 82. And in the West, it only dropped 2 points to 85. So And then who is this from? This is Robert Dietz, the NAHB's chief economist. He says, while lumber prices are showing improvement, the price and availability of other building materials. So now it's like, cool, we can get lumber, but now it's tough to get flooring, drywall, appliances, and windows. So now they're still facing another challenge, but it feels like they're getting through the tough parts. You know, it's still going to be land and labor, but it feels like they're moving through that, I guess. So I wouldn't say the negative headline is really the whole story.
Yeah, and here is the lumber. Can you guys see that? So I just Googled the current lumber prices per 1,000 board feet.
And we're pre-pandy levels, right?
Almost, yeah. It's down to 470. When you look at the 5-year, we are about where it was back in 2018, midway through 2018. We're about in the same range, but it did take a dip from 2018 all the way to 2020. And then it really started to go up in spikes, as you could see. So it went all the way up to the 1600, which I can't even find that peak, but it was 1600. And then now it's all the way down to 470 and 90 cents.
And that's futures. So it's not what they still have to get through inventory in the actual retailers through this stuff. But once they get through that, then prices should be coming down. So that's good. But the next story is going to go into more detail, but it's just, it's buyer traffic that's really down, you know? So if prices adjust down, then maybe buyer traffic goes up. Cause I think people are comfortable with the Rona. I do. So yeah, I don't think it's that whole, remember when this first happened, we were like, well, no one wants to go see a model unless they're cleaning it or whatever. So, how are they going to show these models? How are they going to do that? So but now I think people are comfortable to go back. So why is the traffic down? I'm assuming it's that pricing.
There's a house of someone who's an infectious disease person. That's all they're working with right now is the Rona stuff. And I went to show their house and I was like, well, you know, if now's not a good time, that's fine. And they're like, I just wear a mask. You'll be fine. I'm like, okay.
All right,
if
cool.
you of all people are okay with this, then all right. I'm all right with it. All right. So the next story is Dan was alluding to the lumber prices fall. Lumber executive says the drop in prices has reignited demand for building projects. This is on CNBC. Kyle Little, he's a chief operating officer in New York-based wholesale distributor Sherwood Lumber. He says that over the last 3 weeks, we've seen renewed interest. The industry veteran formal lumber trader said, our renewed interest is now turning to actual orders, and people are placing business here for the second half of the year, most notably in the commercial segment and into the multifamily unit segment. So this has been talked about a lot, especially on Clubhouse, and some of the investor groups and multifamily and commercial groups are talking a lot about renewed interest in the multifamily units. There's with all the REITs and all the investment groups looking to build big multifamily projects because they don't really want to buy the old ones. So there's a lot of new projects going up in the multifamily space, but that remark about the commercial segment is kind of surprising to me, given the number of people that are working from home and the giant exodus of quote unquote regular office space from the office to home. I'm surprised that in the commercial segment, they've seen a huge uptick in orders. But Little's comments Thursday came as lumber hit a low of $480 and $40 per thousand board feet, its lowest level since July 8th, 2020, when lumber traded as low as $465 per thousand board. Let's see. On Thursday, they're going through an equilibrium stage or a search for equilibrium. This is the last quote. He said, what we're finding is the support level that follows the bottom end of that continual trend pre-Rona is very, very bullish. It's also one that would be making a lot of us in the lumber world feel more comfortable going and rebuilding the inventory for the second half of this year with the projected demand that we are now seeing. So basically the demand tightened quite a bit as lumber prices were getting crazy. And because of that, the pullback scared the lumber people to replenish all the inventory. Now, granted, they had to get rid of what they already had. And we talked about that about 3 or 4 weeks ago, too, where you had these people at the big lumber stores and all that stuff. Even though the price of lumber had decreased, they were holding stock on their shelves that had to be at the higher price because they had ordered that lumber and replenished their shelves at the higher price. Now it looks like that stuff is finally coming off the shelves, and now the big lumber producers are starting to produce more for the second half of the year as they're receiving additional orders. Dan, you got anything to add to that one?
Not really. There is one quote he had, just that, it's essentially, to sum it up, he just says that they in the lumber world are getting more and more comfortable with kind of refilling inventory, which again, I find very promising, so you never want, I don't know how to say it. Like, I don't want prices for them to come down, but for buyers I do, because it's, they got that sticker shock, and people were turning to new construction to remedy that, but that's not the price. So, or not the not what's actually happened. So it'll be nice if that all comes down and gets back to just kind of some normalcy.
Yeah. In this next article, we're talking climate change. Oh wait, I didn't look and see if we had any comments on this. No, there's no comments. Okay. So the next article is a little bit about the climate change and FEMA. So FEMA is overhauling the National Flood Insurance Program for climate change. I want to know if you're watching and listening. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? What do you think? Climate change and its devastating impact are accelerating faster than ever, according to a new report from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The hurricanes are becoming stronger and rainfall is heavier and flood risk is higher. Yet America's National Flood Insurance Program changed since its inception, but it's about to. Under the current program, the Federal Emergency Management Agency provides $1.3 trillion in coverage for more than 5 million policyholders in 23,500 communities nationwide. Homeowners in FEMA-designated flood zones are required to purchase flood insurance, but others do so voluntarily. Nearly 1/3 of NFIP policyholders are not mandated to carry it. Starting October 1, the program will undergo a complete overhaul to make insurance pricing more accurately reflect each property's unique flood risk. Finally, climate change will be factored in. Quote, "No question that this is the most substantive change to the program going back to 1968, said David Marstad, Deputy Associate Administrator for the Federal Flood Insurance Mitigation and Senior Executive of the Flood Insurance Program. Quote, what we found out was that many folks with lower value homes were paying more than they should, and those at higher value homes were paying less than they should. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we have accurately sound, fair, and equitable rates. And so that's what we're driving to change. The federal flood insurance-based policy program's valuation, properties evaluation, and whether it has a 1% actual chance of flooding. All right. So the federal flood insurance is based on the properties. I'm sorry. Wow. This is back to that. Let me zoom in here. Today's federal flood insurance based on the property's elevation, not evaluation. I was thinking of, like, in my head, how are they going to find home valuations? Like, how are they going to determine which ones are more expensive, which ones are less expensive?
Yeah, well, it does kind of mention that in the article.
Use the Zestimate. Okay. Today's federal flood insurance is based on the property's elevation and whether it has a 1% annual chance of flooding, based on historic flooding records. Right. Under the new model, FEMA will also look at the home's replacement cost, whether it's a risk of rainfall, river or coastal flooding, or how close the property is to a source of potential flooding. Most important, FEMA will now factor in the future catastrophic modeling from climate change, including sea level rise, drought, and wildfires. This is interesting for me. Right now, the owner of a 1 million Florida home and the owner of a 200,000 Montana home are paying the same rates. So that, I feel like they should have changed a long time ago.
That's kind of my takeaway from this whole thing. Is not really about climate change or not, but like, why have these not been reviewed in the last 40 years?
I feel like that's the bigger story.
Right. But climate change get the clicks, not just that we're reviewing, but why. It's the same thing. Remember when we covered that NAR policy that kind of, it had some, it was really, it was, going towards racism, but they were trying to get rid of this thing and they never got rid of it. They just kept changing it over the years. I'm like, why didn't you just change it? But why hasn't this been reviewed in forever? Because one of the interesting facts that, I found in there was Houston it was Harvey, 200,000 homes were obviously affected. 75% of them did not have flood insurance.
Well, they're so inland.
Yeah. So that's where I feel like they missed the mark. And again, Harvey was a few years ago. Why wasn't this reviewed then? It just based on Harvey. And then has that been updated now? But why is this so archaic? Why haven't they done this? That's my biggest takeaway. Like, they're way behind the ball on this. And I think Mike Elizabeth Rodell, you got to say the whole name. She has a great point. She's like, I feel like this is more so that the government isn't paying out more than the insurance companies.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, I remember 2019 Arkansas flooding, by the way. Ray was posting in his stories about
down by the river
that was way up. That was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't Harvey by any stretch of the imagination, but we just got a little flooding. There's no question that with climate change and the changing conditions, that if we do nothing, the program is going to be unsustainable.
But I don't think it's climate change, whatever with climate change. I think they just need to adjust this on a yearly basis. Why are we so
just making dumb decisions? Well, then you'd have somebody that like gets so part of the reason why they don't change that often is because if they're increasing your flood insurance all the time, then you qualify for a 30-year mortgage based on, your insurance and your monthly payment and all that kind of stuff. And then the next year you wouldn't qualify.
So it
because
does
you didn't get the pay increase, but they're raising your flood insurance. So there's got to be a way to raise it, but to not make it continual, I guess you could say. Just even balancing that situation where someone's paying $1 million house and the $200,000 house is paying the same thing, that doesn't make any sense at all. Right?
But wait, though, because it doesn't to me either. But when you go about risk, though, is someone in Montana with a $200,000 house, if they're at a lower risk or a higher risk, but the $1 million place in Florida?
Hold up. Was it saying different areas?
Oh, it said $200,000 in Montana is paying the same as $1 million in Florida.
Well, that $200,000 in Montana shouldn't be paying anything.
Right. They're not going to flood if they're on a mountain.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
And then my next question is this going to be required? Like,
what about the millionaire? What about the millionaire in Montana and the $200,000 house in Florida? But still, the $200,000 house should be paying more.
Right, because they're at a higher risk.
Right.
It should be risk based, not house worth based. But they do make the point about replacement. If your house is $1 million, it's going to cost more to replace the house. I get that. But if it has less risk, there should be a sliding scale here, not such hard and fast numbers.
Yeah. Speaking of risk, if you continue to have tenants in your property and you're going to sell it, are you taking a huge risk? Are you going to be able to evict them if something goes wrong?
No.
Biden's court win on eviction ban extension draws appeals from realtors. That's our group, the National Association of Realtors and Landlords. Groups against President Biden's new Rona eviction moratorium appealed one day after the federal judge ruled it could stand, according to reports. 2 chapters of the National Association of Realtors and a group of landlords requested immediate action from Washington, D.C. Court of Appeals on Saturday, and they may get a ruling by the end of next week, according to Politico. D.C. District Judge Dabney Frederick, a Trump appointee, ruled Friday that the scaled-back ban could stay in place because of a June appeals ruling that kept the previous version in place, that the U.S. Supreme Court didn't reverse. The moratorium meant to shield renters struggling during the pandy expired at the end of July, but Biden administration reissued the ban after pressure from progressives. Let's see where. That's kind of the news there. The other article also goes with this, I should mention, is a map on CNBC. Producer Matt, if you could pull up that map. It's a map that shows how much rental assistance states have distributed. So the darker the color, right, the more that's been paid. So the share of emergency rental assistance funds approved or paid to households. So the 2 best.
I got Texas and Virginia. Nice.
Texas and Virginia.
And Alaska
is right there at 31%. Texas is at 51%. Virginia is at 42%. No one is above 51.4% of funds distributed.
That seems like an issue.
Wow. Arkansas is at 1.3%. California is at 19.8%.
But that's an issue. If the money's been given to the states, right, and the local governments, where is it?
Well, and aren't there people that have to apply for it specific ways, and you have to prove that it was due to the Rona and all that?
Is that the holdup?
Most likely.
Or is it our government getting in the way? Because that's what I would assume.
The percentages are of the first round of funding, $25 billion. The second round is still being distributed to the states. $4.2 billion of that money has reached the households of the $46 billion for renters and that were placed for renters and their landlords. Oh, wow. So you can find this map. It's real interesting. You find that map on CNBC. There was a lot of rooms on Clubhouse talking about this too, because the investor rooms and the multifamily rooms were talking about landlords that were just stuck with the bill and they couldn't.
And that's the part that really sucks. Like they need to streamline the process, or they really have to focus. And I understand why these landlords and property owners are upset. Like they're just, I didn't pull much from this one, but it feels like, I don't know. It's almost the thought of, well, no, these landlords and property owners, they have money. They're fine. Everything will be fine. But what we need to focus on is getting people back to work and then giving the relief. And again, I think they're relief.
Why should they go to work, Dan, when they can sit at home and make more money?
That's a great question, right? I don't know, but it seems like there's a flaw in that system right there alone.
Yeah.
And then we can bring up the national minimum wage average. Like there's a whole thing to fix here. But anyway, I digress. And by the way, did you tell everyone where I pulled that article from?
Which one?
The one you just read.
The CNBC one? Or no, I didn't. I didn't cite the source on that.
Dan pulled that one.
The Biden court win on eviction ban extension draws appeals from realtors and landlords. The provider of that news, because it was kind of buried elsewhere. But Dan found it. Dan did on Fox News.
The California guy. I just hope people finally understand that I don't pick sides. I just look for news. Anyway, but
totally pick sides.
Yeah, I just think it needs to. I don't know. It just kind of needs to happen. It just feels like we're struggling, and then to come up with a solution that's probably fairly simple. And I am willing to bet there are going to be lawsuits that come out about money that was supposed to go to renters or landlords that didn't quite make it there. I'll put money on that the money was going to be mismanaged somewhere on a statewide level.
Get ready for the late night ads, man. Were you displaced during coronavirus? Yeah, that's gonna happen.
It's a thing.
Guarantee it. Call 1-888-RONA. Call 1-888-RONA today. Get your money now.
We got to do it. Yeah, there we go. Let's just do it. Have you been burned by the Rona? Have you not gotten your rental assistance?
Yeah. Were you a tenant that was thrown out of your house due to Rona? We're trying to be very careful not to say it.
Yeah. Are you mad at your landlord? Did he unequivocally get rid of you and get you out of your house?
You gotta say rich landlord.
Yeah, rich landlord, your money grubbing landlord. Did they throw you out of your house? Call 1-800-BE-MORE.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Speaking of not trusting, Zillow Group faces an antitrust scrutiny. That was not a good transition, but it was the best I had. Zillow Group faces antitrust scrutiny from the U.S. lawmakers over $500 million showing time acquisition. This article comes to us from GeekWire. Representative Ken Buck, he's a Republican in Colorado, and Senator Mike Lee, a Republican in Utah, sent a letter on Thursday to the FTC that raises antitrust questions related to the residential real estate industry and specifically Zillow Group's pending $500 million acquisition of ShowingTime. Did you notice that it said questions related to the residential real estate industry?
Yes.
I read this the first time. I didn't notice that it said that. Now I want to know more of what this letter says. Like what are
which the letter's here. If you guys want to see it, again, this is GeekWire. I don't know if we want to show it on the show, but the letter is in this article.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look see what. All right. Anyway, the letter read in full below highlights the growing antitrust scrutiny that the tech giants in various industries and the latest antitrust related criticism facing Seattle-based Zillow. Zillow announced in February it'll pay $500 million to acquire ShowingTime, a Chicago-based real estate company that sells software to facilitate home showings. The Republican lawmakers say the deal, which is still pending, may further entrench Zillow's consumer information advantage to the detriment of homebuyers and their competitors. Since Zillow's $2.5 billion of Trulia in 2015, which was reviewed by regulators, the company has made additional acquisitions and expanding operate as a broker, directly competing with brokers and agents who rely on these tools for their business. The letter cites Zillow. Well, we can kind of skip. What did your takeaway from this, Dan? I mean, basically, we get the idea. They lawmakers want to prevent or at least investigate this acquisition to see if there's something for antitrust here.
Well, I have 2 points. My first point is, if we're going after Zillow, and by the way, I don't like Zillow, but if we're going after Zillow, why don't we go after my local gas company and my local electric, power company? I cannot get power from anyone else. I have to get it from these people. How is that okay? I cannot go shop rates for these things. So can we start there? Let Zillow do what Zillow's going to do, but let's start with power. When they can charge whatever they want. My monthly bill last month was whatever they wanted to charge me. Let's start there for power, because it's hotter than ever in California, and I'm running my air. And by the way, I keep it at 77 in my house. That's low, right? Or that's high. But anyway, let's start there. Let Zillow do whatever. Let's start there. But I digress again for the third time on the show. What I found interesting was that, so it mentions in the article, this is Zillow's 17th acquisition. Now, this is still pending, which it's been pending for 6 months, but 17th acquisition. So it wasn't just Truly's a big one. ShowingTime's obviously a big one, but this is their 17th acquisition. So their point is, hey, we got to stop them, because they're just going to have it's almost like they're saying they're going to have too many toys to play with, and they're going to hinder, because Zillow always remains that, no, we're trying to make it better for the consumer. But they're saying, no, they're only going to give the consumer one place to go if they buy all this stuff. And they're going to have too much data about these consumers and bring them all back to Zillow, which, I mean, it's a smart business move, but that's kind of their point. So I find it interesting. But like, Ray, how many power companies do you have to choose from there in Arkansas?
One.
Right.
But they don't have I don't know how the California power works, but the one in Texas, you could choose a bunch of them, but they could set their power rates and do. You remember when there was like a natural disaster?
They can compete, right?
$1,000, but those people were paying like $1,000 energy bill too. It's a utility
right
here.
So anyway, but yeah, so I just find it
Zillow should be a utility.
That's what I'm saying. No, no, but they're just trying to keep them from pulling. They're getting, I mean, geez, if you look through the numbers through the Rona, their numbers have gone through the roof. So this is another thing. And remember, what did we say about ShowingTime? This is more about data, not really about them. That's why they're paying $500 million for something that's not worth that.
Right. Lisa Perk says Gridley. Is that a thing around here? Melissa Mars said we have 2 that operate in their area, don't have overlapping zones. Well, so here's my thought. I don't really mind Zillow. I think, there's a place for them in the marketplace for sure. Oh, see, Dan, it looks like your power went up.
They got to me. They shut me down.
Oh, Lisa said Gridley was the Texas power company that was charging people like $1,000 a month.
They got to me.
They got to you. So, I think there's a place. I think there's a large place for Zillow in the marketplace, just as if they were a Keller Williams or another big real estate company. I think that's fine. My only crux is if they want to buy ShowingTime, that's okay too. But I don't know that I'm so excited about using ShowingTime if they buy them, even though I use Zillow and I think it's a great program that they have, and we're able to help a lot of their clients, and I feel like we're buying their database for less than it's costing us, right? We're getting paid to buy their database. I think it's a good deal. But in the long run, I also don't want to give my competitor the contact information of my clients.
Right.
Even if my competitor were like, no, we promise not to do anything with that. It's a closed zone.
Right.
It's a different company. Okay,
Right.
that's fine. But you have one guy, one employee that accidentally merges those databases, and then what? Like,
Or
it's just,
hackers, dude. Hackers are a huge thing right now.
I would feel more comfortable not giving my competitors my client's contact information. There are
100%.
agents around here that even on a closing information sheet will black out their client's contact information. So
Yeah.
I don't see that being a successful merger unless they just want to use them for the technology.
So do you think that, this antitrust do you think it's justified?
I don't think it's an antitrust issue. No, I think there's plenty of other options for people to choose from. I don't think it's an antitrust thing. It's not even in the same avenue of business.
And if they are just, because I said this about the Rex thing, because they do mention Rex in this GeekWire
Personally,
article.
that's personally what I think is going on. Is the Republican lawmakers have this back end deal with Rex that we've seen before, that Rex is in bed with the Republican lawmakers, and they're trying to make it difficult for a brokerage to operate. And they don't care if it's Zillow, they don't care if it's Keller Williams, they don't care who it is. They're trying to make it difficult for that brokerage to operate.
But I've said it 1,000 times. If Ray and I are in the same city, 2 doors apart in a little business complex, and we make the exact same bagels, but my marketing is better, which it never would be. Ray's an amazing marketer. But if it was in that fantastic world and I sell more bagels, why should I be punished for it? If I sell more bagels, then I buy my own bakery, then I buy my own so on and so on. You know what I mean? Why should I be punished for that?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I agree. I don't know if this is antitrust or if this is some other bigger thing. Because remember, there's Rex hanging out there, and Rex does not want to go away. They do not want to go away.
Speaking of Rex, they're calling out NAR for alleged false assertions, while NAR alleges Rex is blaming others for its business shortcomings.
Accidentally merged data. Oh, but just to let you know, Ray, we fired that employee that accidentally merged the data.
Oh, yeah, you're still talking about the Zillow thing. Okay.
Sorry, well, a couple comments. Sorry, my bad.
Sorry, I didn't complete. Okay, so on the Rex thing, this is the hardest clapback that NAR has had in this whole Rex DOJ lawsuit. It says Rex calls out NAR for alleged false assertions, while NAR alleges Rex is blaming others for their business shortcomings, and that consumers are not interested in Rex's services.
Owned.
Finally, they said.
I know we've been waiting 4 months for this, 2 months.
Didn't we say like 3 weeks ago, like when they were coming out again, saying, "Hey, the DOJ is reversing it, and we are going to be confident in what we are doing is right." That's basically what they said.
They were like, "Yeah, here we go. Here's a big clapback from NAR," and they were like, "We're confident that our policies and what we say is fine. We're good. Everything's okay."
So in a motion to dismiss, so just to bring you up to speed, Rex sued NAR and Zillow in March, alleging antitrust violations and a commingling rule, dubbed the no commingling rule, that prompted Zillow to separate on multiple listing service listings from the MLS listings on the website, including listings from REX. I'm hearing a little bit of an echo, by the way.
Yeah, nothing.
I think it's on yours. Is it through Clubhouse? I think I can hear your Clubhouse.
No, I have
that's
headphones in.
Weird. I'm hearing something. Okay. Anyway, Rex sued. Wait, we already just said that. In motions to dismiss in July, NAR and Zillow hit back against Rex's allegations, and it's a target of an illegal boycott. One of NAR's arguments was that in 2008, consent decree with the DOJ allowed realtor-affiliated multiple listing services to require the MLS listings be searched separately from listings obtained from other sources, including REX or the for sale by owners and all those other properties. Last week, the DOJ submitted a statement of interest in the case to prevent the drawing of printed inferences from now expired 2008 consent decree between the DOJ and NAR. This statement said that the DOJ had not determined whether the rule at issue in the Rex case was consistent with antitrust laws, pro-competitive or lawful as part of that consent decree, in the implication that the rule had been approved by the agency was incorrect.
But they're trying to force Zillow to do something that is outside of their model. If you put your listings in the MLS, Zillow will show it. If you don't, they won't. Although they'll give you a little tab.
Yeah.
they're just trying way too hard here to, and NAR said the best way, hey, your business model isn't something that consumers want.
And NAR responded to the DOJ in their most assertive comments to date by saying that the DOJ was attempting to rewrite the history of the rule. And a rule was required in the consent decree and approved by the DOJ. That approval, the 1.48 million trade member organization group contends, quote, does show that the rule is at least competition neutral and legal because the DOJ, quote, would not require NAR to adopt a policy that was anti-competitive or violated the law. So this is like a brilliant, and I've been waiting for them to do something. Oh my goodness. And this is a brilliant way to seed it. Essentially, the DOJ is saying, hey, you guys are following this 2008 thing. It's out of date and doesn't work. And NAR is saying, oh, surely you didn't approve something that was anti-competitive or violated the law.
Nice.
This is the best.
It's making them answer.
Yeah. I mean, so as a young one, I would read depositions for fun because I just love some of the back and forth on this stuff.
By the way, Ray, in next week's intro, that's what I was going to use. I was going to say Ray used to love to read depositions in his free time.
I really did.
You got me stumped. I don't know what to do.
All right. So for all these reasons, NAR respectfully requests that the court simply ignore the United States statement. This is not the time or the forum for the United States to relitigate the terms of a settlement that was negotiated and accepted by the United States and Illinois federal court in 2008. Woo. In response, Rex's attorneys were stressed. That's not what it says. It says Rex's attorneys stressed that the 2008
they were stressed. Oh no, they came back.
Yeah. NAR's virtual office website or VOW policies, and the decree expressly said that it did not concern NAR's Internet Data Exchange or IDX policies. The no commingling rule at issue in Rex's case and the IDX rule, not the VOW rule. So some of that is like the IDX kind of took over some of the VOW and all this other stuff. And so it's kind of semantics, right? Anyway, you guys can read the details. I'm not going to read the whole deposition and all that. Well, it's not even a deposition, but I'm not going to read the whole back and forth. But it's definitely been a political motivated move so far. Rex has a lot of backing from some Republican leaders.
Chris Christie.
Yeah, Chris Christie, to name one, former Republican leaders. I personally think that a lot of that backing comes from NAR's previous propensity to kind of lean on the left and to promote maybe more democratic causes. And because of that, if you're going to play politics, then you're going to get burned by politics. And so Rex has found an in with a lot of the Republican lawmakers. So you as agents watching this may want to call your Republican lawmakers, especially if you're a member of the National Association of Realtor, and let them know what's going on, because they may not know what's going on unless Rex is lobbying them to know what's going on.
Or unless they watch our show.
Or unless they watch our show. So Lee Brown said one of the big problems, I think Glenda Baker was also saying this, that one of the big problems is that everyone's looking at National Association of Realtors as this big conglomerate when, 80% of us are small businesses or even independent contractors, single proprietor. And we're just out there on our own, doing our own thing. And it's addressed like NAR is this giant organization or this giant company. And it's really starting to pit this giant company versus the consumer instead of the individual agent in their own community serving the consumer.
Yeah.
So hopefully more will come out. There's also the other law. There's also the other lawsuit about the commissions and how sellers don't want to pay the commissions for the buyer side anymore because they believe it's hiding and commingling and colluding and all this other stuff. And what that will lead to potentially is people that have been disenfranchised in the past not being able to afford representation in one of their largest purchases of their entire life. And we don't think that that is appropriate either. So I think disclosure and being upfront with what people are paying is probably the best way to go. And if you're trying to hide that or saying that it shouldn't be displayed on third-party websites, then I think you got a value proposition issue, and and it's not the issue that buyers don't know what they're paying. They should all know exactly how it works and exactly what they're paying, but it's your
On the
value.
buy side and the list
Yeah.
side, by the way.
But it's your value proposition that's the thing that's missing.
Yeah. And, by the way, I don't want to take it all back, but I want to take some of the stuff I said back about NAR because they've been really, really active in the last, 8 months or so with all this stuff going on. Because for a long time they were quiet. They wouldn't do much for us, and they would spend a lot of money on dumb logos. But now it's like, hey, they're here. They're clapping back. They're working.
Speaking of, we have two other stories. We're going to skip them. Well, we can mention them. There's two cool articles. Google is planning a Silicon Valley campus with hardware hub. A big part of this hub is like, what?
Where's Silicon Valley?
I think that's the last bastion of California, right? That's the only place that people are left.
Only thing holding on.
Yeah.
All people are congregating to Silicon Valley because everyone else is gone.
What I thought was most interesting about this, though, was the R&D facility and the industrial side. There's a lot of like distribution and stuff coming out of here, which I didn't feel like. I felt like that was too expensive to hold in Silicon Valley. And producer Matt, you could show an image. I don't know, you may already be. But they announced it's arguably its most serious attempt at a hardware this week when it said it'll be ditching the Qualcomm chips and creating its own. So Google is now creating their own chips.
So their phones for computers for Google Chromebooks and all that stuff.
20% of their building is designed for office space and 80% for manufacturing, storage, distribution, other purchases.
Wow. So I didn't read this one, so I'm hearing it with you guys.
80% of their new campus facility is going to be devoted to manufacturing, distribution, and storage. 20% is office, but it does put the engineers in touch with the product themselves.
Well, and physically, they can't work remotely on this. Maybe 20% can, but the rest of it, they have to physically work in this location in California. Interesting.
I just feel like it's I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of expensive for Silicon Valley to have industrial. Don't you I feel like you could have shipped that off to Arizona or something. It'd still be close.
Texas is good with that stuff.
Some kind of big warehouse in the desert. The 10 most expensive towns in America is another cool article, but we have something else that Ron Bruno brought us last week. It was yesterday
on the show prep show. And Stephanie Funk had asked about it. I don't think Stephanie's in the room, but she had asked about the impact of the Middle East crisis and what was going to happen. So, Dan was talking about the flow of people, which my mind kind of went to the flow of people, and then the stability in the area and the instability, I guess you could say, in the area, and what that's going to do. I was thinking of oil prices, how it affects the economy. And Ron was talking about the Fed minutes that were just released at 1. So let me see if I can find these. Fed minutes today. You talk a little bit about what happened. Ron, you flash your mic if you're prepared to talk about. Yeah, he's here. So I'm going to let him. He's a mortgage lender. And Ron, introduce yourself. Tell us where you work and where you're licensed. I think you're in Texas and California. But tell us about the Fed minutes that were released today, and we'll have some breaking news. Breaking. When the news breaks, we fix it.
Yeah, there you go. When news breaks, we fix it. All right, Ron, you're up, man. What's going on with the Fed minutes? Are rates going up or down? Where are they?
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity. Ron Bruno, I am a mortgage lender licensed in California and Texas, live in Dallas, Texas, lived in LA for 16 years, but now I call Dallas home. So it was pretty interesting. So there was a little surprise. We hinted yesterday on the broadcast here that the big question was going to be whether the Fed was going to start to pull back or taper, if you will, reduce their asset purchases. And the surprise is they said that could come as soon as early as this year, right? So a lot of people were thinking, oh, that's going to eventually come into play, probably a 2022 thing. Well, they actually said that it might be earlier. So if they start to reduce asset purchases in the fourth quarter, that could have an impact on rates. Right now, the 10-year is hovering at 1.28. It's gone up and down a little bit throughout the day. The Dow is down 100 points. So that is part of discussion in terms of reducing stimulus. And the reason why stock markets fall is because the cost of borrowing goes up, means they have less profits. So investors want to sell, especially in those particular industries that are capital intensive, where they're doing a lot of lending. So right now, the rates have stayed steady. Their investors, they are looking at this a little bit heavier. They're going to go through the actual minutes, because the Fed speaks in riddles. So they're gonna go through the minutes and see if there's anything in particular. But what stood out was the fact that they are actually talking about tapering this year, reducing the amount of assets. Right now, it's $80 billion of treasuries and $40 billion of mortgage-backed securities. So they are going to scale that back at some point. And the other thing is, they also said that in terms of their long-term goal of stemming inflation, their long-term goal is 2% plus. They said they're coming very close to that number. So that's what I have to report for now.
That's cool. Thanks for the live update. While you were talking, I put the Fed Minutes report that was just released, like we said, from CNBC on, and looking through that. I was looking for some kind of quotes or something, but they don't have a lot of quotes. There's just the one that you mentioned about the 2%, which is interesting. Do you think, in your experience, that this will cause rates to increase?
That's what I was going to ask.
I do think that because what the Fed does not want to have happen is what's known as taper tantrum, which happened a few years ago, where they reduced the asset purchases too quickly, and rates, they started to skyrocket as a result. And the reason why the Fed buys securities is it creates a market so that banks can lend with each other. They increase the monetary supply. So that's one of the keys with the Fed, is they want money to be moving around. So what they do is they buy securities as a result of that. And during COVID, when you had people where you had unemployment reaching double-digit levels, and the threat of people losing their homes by not paying mortgages, the market seized up. So as a way to help stem that, they implemented this unprecedented amount of purchases with mortgage-backed securities and treasuries. So they increased the supply. Now, because things have gotten to the point where we're now getting into an inflationary environment, and the big question is the inflation going to be, is it just a near-term thing and a reaction to people getting out in the world because they've been cooped up for a year? Or is it something that's more long-term? That's the real question. So I do see that rates are going to trend upwards. They did say that in terms of raising the Fed funds rate, which is the rate that banks charge each other overnight, they did say that they're going to keep that at zero for some time, at least until 2022. So if they had announced that, in addition to the taper, reducing the asset purchases, and we're going to go raise the Fed funds rate, that would have a pretty significant impact on rate. That's a reason why you didn't see the rates shoot up right after the announcement.
So how long do you think it'll take these rates to start moving up? I mean, that zero, that's a good note for someone who is a buyer that's looking to still purchase a house in the next several months. It could mean that the rates kind of remain stable or tick up just a little bit. But what does ticking up over time look like? Is that a 1/10 of a point increase? Is that a 1/4 point? Is that a 1/2 point over a year? What does that look like, in your opinion, Ron?
Yeah, so they're saying that futures contracts are showing that there's a 50% chance of a rate hike in November 2022. So we're looking at this as a next year thing, and They go in 1/4 points, right? So when we had COVID, and typically the Fed, they will make any moves when it comes to the Fed funds rate. They'll make it after they meet, right? So after their quarterly meeting. So their quarterly meeting was in July. At the end of July, and they just released their notes today, right? So what was very interesting was during the right before COVID, or right before it really hit the national level, the Fed decided to reduce the Fed funds rate. I believe at the time it was 2.5 down to 0 before they even met, right?
Yeah.
So it was an emergency session where they went from 2.5 down to 0, right?
Yeah,
So that's a pretty huge drop. And that's why you saw interest rates go from 4s down to 2s. And that, that made us all very busy on the mortgage front. So I would say, the Fed is going to gradually increase the Fed funds rate starting sometime next year. But it looks like it might be towards the end of next year in terms of the Fed funds rate. But interest rates can still climb up if we still get into ongoing inflation and the reduction of the tapering, right? So they start to pull back on the amount of securities that they purchase.
There you go. Well, thanks, Ron, for the word. That's kind of,
So good.
my prediction. I think Dan is probably more right than I am, even though it shows signs that rates will tick up over time. I was thinking over the next 3 to 4 months, rates would begin to increase because of the inflationary concerns, but they are pulling back. They are tapering orders. So that's, I think puts you more in the right that it is going to be a rate.
I was thinking shorter term though. Sorry, that was Ron, right? Ron is saying more. That's more long-term stuff. So then I would agree. And that he even said the quarter point, which Ray said they'll go up a quarter point. So I was thinking more short
over
term.
a longer range though.
Right.
So we'll kind of see what happens. I think overall it's pretty good news if you're a buyer in the market, but the thing to watch is going to be the inflation and the orders on producers. And if that continues to remain high, they're going to have to do something to stem that, because the Fed has really a 2-part mandate, maintain full employment and also prevent inflation. And as employment numbers go down and more people go back to work, which hasn't happened, like what, Dane was saying, what is our current unemployment?
You got it.
Yeah,
we haven't looked it up in a couple weeks.
Have it? Oh, well, in Arkansas it's 4.4. That's considered full employment. What for I don't have it for the United States. I got like every state broken down, but what U.S.
I'll search real quick.
5.4%. So it is down a little bit from what it was last time we looked it up. Full employment is considered 4 to 6%. It's kind of what economists say. So we are right in that quote unquote full employment. But as some of the benefits for the Rona affected individuals go away, I think you'll see more people actually go back and get work. So that number should drop on down to 4. When that happens, that's when I think you're going to see those rate increases, because more people. They're going to have to do something, because money's too cheap and people are going to be ordering too much stuff, and producers are going to be hiking their prices because they can't keep up with the production. And that's literally the definition of inflation. So,
right. It's going to be a forced inflation though, not a gradual.
Right. I got a video on that. Y'all got a YouTube Ray Ellen Fed. There's a video on it. Producer Matt can put it in the thing. But,
yeah, you may get one about the actual Fed or the cake. You don't know.
Or if I'm just sitting there eating. Ray Ellen is fed.
And happy.
Speaking of being fed and happy, Dan, where can people find you?
DLudwigrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS, everywhere. Mostly here on Clubhouse. I'm here once a week. Sometimes I'll jump into a room because there's some great content out there. But over on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram. I haven't posted my controversial thing yet, Ray. I haven't had time. But I'm going to do that in my stories. So, but yeah, DLudwigrocks, DLUDWIGROCKS, everywhere. And Ray, where can they find you?
You can find me at Razorback, RAYZORBACK, everywhere good Razorbacks are sold. You can also find me on that YouTube link. I just posted it there. Actually, producer Matt posted it for me. Thank you, producer Matt.
That YouTube what is link.
That? What?
No, don't show what that says. We're giving it away.
Oh yeah. Somebody's gonna pause it and then type it into their URL real fast. No, just go to the show, go to the YouTube, and you can find that URL for the Fed video. But thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate your participation. Thanks so much, Ron. Shout out to you for the additional information on the minutes. I'm glad we got some breaking news finally, because they always wait till after our show's over before releasing that. So it was cool. Yeah, I appreciate all of you who came up here, helped moderate, talked, everyone in the comments that were dropping bombs, Dusty, Elizabeth, Lisa Park, Melissa, Ryan Bokeros was here for a little bit. All you guys, we really appreciate y'all joining us. And
tune in tomorrow for my new show, The Bearded Man of Real Estate. Just kidding.
with working internet. All right. Bye, everybody.